the teacher leader grad class that I've been taking. And one project that we had to do was to find something in our classroom that we could change, modify, or do an intervention for. All right, we'll be back in a second. Oh yeah, here we go. And we're back. Okay, here's what we're going to go over for today. We're going to go over why we're doing this. We're going to take a little time to talk about the purpose of doing this for a meeting, the problem, teacher and class vision, background to why I did this intervention, and then the strategy, implementation, data, adjustment, next steps for the intervention. Why do I teach? This comes all the way back from Berea College when I did my undergrad. They said, why do you teach? Well, I started teaching because I liked working with kids outside, because it put them somewhere they're uncomfortable, and it made them face a problem. So I like to teach because I want to find a way to make them curious, to put them inside, in front of something that makes them go, huh, and ask questions. So I teach to increase a curiosity based in a sense of excitement for the world and new possibilities. I teach to sustain the wonder and excitement so obvious in young children but hard to find in adults. I teach to create an environment where curiosity is unavoidable and contagious. Finally, I teach not just to ask my students questions, but to develop individuals who respond to new experiences by asking questions and exploring possibilities. I think that fits with engineering, because it gives an opportunity to stick them in an environment where they can say, I had no idea how to do this, but I think this is cool. And they can ask questions about it and explore it. Okay, specifically the class that I did for this intervention project is my 7th grade, 2nd period elective class. I have 17 kids in there. Half of them are your straight A kids who get stuff done before you ask them to do it. Half of them are not. I have almost 40% IEPs in this class of 17. And so I have two very, very different classes. For most of the year, this has been fine. We've been doing a lot of building stuff on Inventor by themselves. We just got into doing robotics. And I was worried getting into the programming, thinking we're going to put these kids into groups. Worried that I would either leave one group behind, or that there would be a group that wouldn't be able to catch up to where we needed to be. So prior to doing this intervention, something I tried to do during the first semester of the year is I took the class and segmented it into, okay, I've got one group over here, they're kind of my go-getters, they're my high-performing students, and I had another group over here that I knew were going to need a little bit more attention from me, and I had two parts of the classroom, which worked great for that. It was individual work. I could hang out with one group, work with them, make sure they were caught up and up to speed on things. What we're doing right now requires them to work in groups, and I can't be in just a small group with them the way I could during that section. So, before I did the intervention, we did mechanisms in motion, was our pre-intervention unit. They built gear trains, machines, they analyzed them. This took about 2 weeks. They would build a machine, I'd give them a new one, they would analyze it, come back to me with, here's the gear ratio, here's the type of motion. And I had a lot of problems with completion. I had quite a few kids that were just not getting things done, not able to turn them. What we're working on right now is they're going one step farther. They're building a robotic machine, two-wheeled in the back, one wheel in the front, little tricycle bot that they have to follow a course on the floor or get in and out of a barrier with. This is where I was afraid some of the kids would just hit the wall with programming and not be able to handle it. Okay, some background to this. One article I read with this is by a guy named Edmund Dudley. He teaches English. But he had some ideas for mixed ability groups that I thought fit real well. One of his ideas was that open-ended prompts, open-ended assignments or challenges work well with mixed abilities because students can engage with their strength. If they're good at maybe programming, if they're good at team leadership, if they're good at coming up with ideas, or if they're good with the technical details, they all have an entrance point that they can jump in and work. That cooperative approach I thought would be a good place to jump off of that mixed ability groups. to put kids together with someone who might have a completely opposite set of skills and abilities than they do. One thing he mentioned that I really liked is the idea of validation. He said, no, some of my kids, they don't have a class where they excel. It doesn't matter whether they're in math, science, my class, gym class, I know they're not excelling in any of those places. They get very few chances to feel like, hey, I contributed, I made a difference here. I thought that was a good thing to try to focus on moving forward with this. Okay, so strategy. Looking at my previous grading period, I wanted to find out, okay, what are my two groups of really high performing, really low performing students? I had a pretty good idea. What I specifically looked for was not just grade average, but I had enough missing assignments that I grouped, here are my kids who got everything turned in, and then here is my group that had trouble turning things in. And it wasn't always a case of they didn't work. It was a case of they weren't able to get far enough to complete those assignments. So, focusing on assignment completion, and then also thinking about engagement, how engaged with those two groups of kids. Taking those two groups, I developed a set of mixed work teams, 2 students, pairing up a motivated or completing student with one who's having struggled with motivation and completion to work together. During the intervention, I kept a just kind of on task, not on task sheet, tracking how they're doing as far as staying on task, just to see if engagement could connect with their assignment completion throughout that. Okay, prior to intervention, looking at my last grading period, some data on how they performed from their scores. I had 8 of my 17 students, almost half the class, with A's. I had an exact group, 8 of them with a C. So pretty large gap. And then I had 2 that were sort of in between, hanging out there. So I looked at that and compared the grades to missing and incomplete work. Once again, not all that work counted against them. It was just simply incomplete because they didn't get far enough in the assignment track to complete it. So they weren't necessarily having a low grade because the work wasn't turned in. But at the same time, most of, 75% of that group that had a lower grade were also having difficulty struggling to complete work. The work they were turning in, they're struggling with it. Okay, so during the intervention, the first thing they had to do was a building task in their teams. They had to put together a small robot and get it ready to go. This takes about a week. They learned how to build something, learn what is a nut, what is a bolt, how do I put a wheel on, how do I keep it spinning freely and not stuck. This was a great opportunity for some of those kids who didn't do well in some of the other assignments. They have a chance to shine here. Following that, they've still working on, but 2 coding assignments where they have to take that robot, code it to perform a specific task. So through those 3 assignments, completion, 86% completion. So there is an improvement there. Putting these kids together with a differing ability partner with completion rate. Engagement, during the time of tracking their engagement, we had 80% engagement. I have noticed here as we're getting into some of the more difficult coding challenges, that engagement is starting to taper off. Some of them are hitting the wall. The light isn't always there. So I think there's some things I can do to help improve that we'll talk about here in a second. Okay, I don't have any engagement data from before the study. I wasn't able to go back in time and track what they were doing in the room. So what I've tried to do is say, here's their observed engagement and compare that to how they completed assignments before. Here in black, this is their rate of completion of assignments, and then the blue bars are showing their engagement, just observed, are they on task, not on task during the intervention period. There's some improvement there. Some of these students that had difficulty getting these turned in, their engagement level is up. But I've got a couple of them here, their engagement level is low. Interestingly, some of those same students, even though their engagement level was low during the intervention, here in a second we'll look at their completion level was a bit higher. So here's assignment completion during the intervention period. Now this I can correlate pretty closely with before I did the intervention, but before intervention we've got assignment completion here in black, and the blue columns show their completion during the intervention period. A few interesting spots. This student right here, I'm going to point out, number 9. Engagement, it's like 50%. Half of the time they're on task, half the time they're not. Their completion's really good. Not sure why. Here's my thought, is that during some of those group assignments, you can get a student who checks out for a little bit. Either they're off task, or they're just kind of standing there and letting their partner carry the load for them. And so that completion rate may not be completely accurate there. But well, let's move forward out of here. Okay, thinking about next steps and adjustments following this intervention. One limiting factor in the intervention was the fact that this occurred before and after spring break. I got started with the pre-intervention unit before spring break, and actually got started with the first few days of the intervention unit before the break. The students had a chance to build their machines, get into their groups and work together for a little bit, and then we went to break. Then after break, we had about a week and a half of time. So about 2.5 weeks was the time that I ran the intervention, which was enough time to gather data, but not enough to make it really lengthy or data-heavy study. Greatest observed change was probably in student engagement. The improvements seen with their completion, it's very early into the unit to really tell if 3 assignments of a 4 to 6 week unit is going to be good data. But continuing the unit, finishing out the unit assignments will give a good and better picture, especially as we get to some more formative assessments. What they've done so far is work with their groups, they've worked with their work teams, they've had a chance to kind of turn in those team assignments, but upcoming the formative assignments, they will have to take some time to, on their own, write some pieces of code, debug some programs. They'll also have a chance to, on their own, submit actual programs on the robot to demonstrate, and those will give a better picture of how the team mixed ability pairing will better result if it will give a better result with the individual performance and their comprehension. So starting out here in the next couple of days, the team is going to be adjusted with new partners. We've been with these partner pairings now for a little over 2 weeks, and I know some of the teams are kind of feeling the sense of, I'd like to experience somebody else. There's a few students who have expressed actually some frustration with their partners for various reasons, and even though I think they've worked well together, I want to do my best to give them some choice in that and repair them. As I repair them, I am looking at, once again, differing ability levels. How can they work together in a team? Could they work together better in a team if they had someone with different ability levels? So we're going to continue with that. In the partner pairings, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but another thing I really consider with the middle school age is personalities. I have some personalities that are not always the most compatible, and I also have some personalities that could be challenging to work with, not because they're not compatible, but because they can be tired. They require a lot of attention, and so considering that, not just the mixed abilities, but also which personalities are going to be the most encouraging to each other, which personalities are going to support each other the best, in addition to their abilities. Okay, next steps. Use formative assessments looking at both group and individual work. Farther down the road, next step, this next grouping is going to be, once again, groups of 2, groups of 3, and maybe one. I have one who typically works by himself. As we can finish out the unit, they're going to get a large open-ended design challenge for their robots. And for that grouping, we're going to break down into groups of 3 or 4, a little bit larger teams, develop some specific group roles for them, allow them to work on that. So those are the next steps in adjustment. I've got a menu popped up there. Reference for the article I read, it was really interesting. the working with mixed ability groups. As a engineering teacher, the perspective of the English teacher is surprising how similar the group pairing perspective was on the need for open-ended, focus on the whole student, look for their validation, look for an opportunity for them to contribute. That was helpful for me. Okay, yeah, there we go. Mixed ability grouping.